Well, yesterday I invited Brian Wong to be the substitute co-host for Good News Wednesday, and it worked out okay. I mean, it actually worked out great. And you got really good numbers last night, Brian. Thank you for
Yeah.
coming. Let's see if you can do it 2 days in a row.
Mhm.
Anyway, listen, a lot going on, even on a 4th of July holiday.
Mhm.
A lot going on, not just in Tesla world and the economic world, but oh my gosh, what's happening with the presidential contest? Maybe we shouldn't even go into that. So much
For you.
craziness going on.
Yeah.
So it's actually, in a way, as a guy who's loved politics my whole life, it's fun to watch. I know it's probably not fun for the country, but it is kind of interesting from a pure political science way to
Mhm.
see what in the world is all this going to mean at the end.
Mhm.
All right. First news out today, very first thing in the morning, Sawyer Merritt was reporting that for the very first time, the Tesla Model Y is included in a list of electric and plug-in hybrid models that the local governments in China can purchase as a service car,
Mhm.
according to official information coming out today. And so that could be a real boost to sales in China, do you think?
Um, my ballpark would be that the government gets about 10% of the cars. Um, so yeah, it could be a significant number. China's going to go 100% EV.
Yeah.
So, it's good that they allow that, because they're probably at 50% now, and then 8% next year. So it's accelerating that shift over to them. So that's good.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. All right. If we're running near capacity already, because I saw a note the other day. I don't know if you saw that note. It was a rumor or not a rumor, but one person who is supposed to know that they're actually looking at over 1 million right now production run rate for the third quarter.
Mhm.
So if they're already thinking they're going to run over 1 million at run rate, adding even another 5 or 6%,
Right.
from this kind of thing could put it right at capacity.
Right. Right.
What do you think is going to happen, though? Do you think, if they're going to be running a capacity, let's just say for fun, between that and FSD possibly being complete, FSD possibly being level 4, FSD possibly being available to purchase in China, and FSD and robotaxis with Baidu and others? I mean, it's 4 different ways we can see massive increases in sales by the end of the year. What are they going to do for factory space?
I think that they have some, just like they popped up the tent before, they could do another tent someplace. But I think that the building and stuff, they're ready to do that. I guess the difference now between tent time and now was the whole gigapress and those kinds of things.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I think that there's limitations around how much they can push it, but I'm hoping that they are ready to pull some plans, to boost production. One, they can just go all out on shifts and get production up that way.
Yeah.
But they've had run rates at 1.2, closing at 1.2 million cars. So
Right.
I think that they weren't at the absolute limit then. That I think they can get 1.3, 1.4.
They could also make more cars in Berlin, which would take pressure off of the shipments coming out of Shanghai to Europe.
Right,
So
right.
that's another possibility.
Yeah, and then Elon, I think, has said that there's various alterations they can make within the factory, not as drastic as some things, but where they could squeeze things in, do more stuff, get more equipment in to address that. So I would expect that they could pull some production levers to get up to 1.4, and then they'll have to make a new factory.
Yeah,
Something there.
simple as that.
Yeah.
So, I have been predicting 300 for a long time now. I was exactly right. Well, not exactly, because it only got to 299 and 12 cents. So everybody gave me a hard time over the 88 cents, but I hit it on the exact day. I thought that was pretty good.
Mhm.
Then I missed it at the end of the year, though, because I said it'd be 300 by the end of the year. That didn't happen. So I'm 1 for 2. I kind of am hinting around. I think maybe we'll be at 300 by 88, but man, I'm not alone on this one. I have got so many people out there calling 300 for 88. What do you think?
Yeah. people talking about 300 by the end of July. People talking 300.88. I'm in that camp. I think we're going to get there because we're already at 248
Right.
after hours, right? So pretty much everyone's saying we're going to can easily push up to 265. This coming Friday and the rest of the next week. They expect some level of consolidation, but before 8/8 we have the 23rd, which
Right.
will reveal the good numbers.
Right.
So I'm expecting that the take rate is somewhat significant. So that, if it was like an extra 5% take rate on that, 10% take rate on that.
On the FSD.
An FSD, yeah. But that if it was all subscription based, then that would be because it would also be used the old cars too, right?
Right.
Old and new cars.
Right.
So another 50,000 take rate off that. So that'd be like equivalent to 10,000 cars. It could boost up margin another percent. So I don't think that was in AJ's numbers.
Yeah, yeah.
So
AJ's
it could
numbers.
be, instead of 18.7, it could be like 19. If it was 30,000, we break 20%, right?
Yeah. So then if we have basically good news, at least as good a news as the street is expecting, maybe better news than the street is expecting, and then no meltdowns in the earnings call,
Yeah.
then after this particular meeting, the last time that we hit all-time high, 410, in my opinion, now this is just Randy's opinion, but in my opinion, we were in a risk-on environment. Stock market was at all-time highs at the time. The car sales were excellent and increasing at 50% a year. And there was a bunch of FOMO over the fact that everybody thought FSD would be figured out next week. Okay, I'm exaggerating, but not much.
Yep.
By the end of the year, I think was Elon's cry every single time. So I think the FOMO was a big part of it. On FSD being complete. Well, if we're after that meeting, after the even either before or after the meeting, we now have some more certainty, something approaching certainty that FSD is going to be full featured and level 4, and there's a timeline for the actual folks to be selling robotaxi services on the road. Do we go back to at least 410?
So I don't want to let these Johnny-come-lately Tesla bulls outdo me. So I'm gonna say that the June 23rd catalyst, that the surprise will be good, because
right,
and energy we know is good, and the actual impact of these things will be good. And that we get revealed then some FSD impacts, because there are some people who did buy on that.
Right.
And I think Elon said it was, more than, it wasn't a nothing burger, that he thought that good stuff was happening there. And that, so, if we can get to, 19%, 20% on margin, then we get to 300, because we're already at 248.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it doesn't take that much to get over there. Basically, there's this kind of resistance at 265, but it's not that strong. And the other thing is, we haven't had it for a while. Short squeeze. There's not quite many shorts, but it's still like $9-10 billion of shorts there. I think they already lost that company. I think it's like 1.6 million. Anyway, it's not insignificant how much the shorts are, and when they have to cover, which I don't think they've done that yet. I think there's only been a little bit of short covering. So I think there's still more to run there. And then people will rotate in because they just think, oh, well, it's run up, it's going to stop. Right. So back in the good old days, Tesla could have like 10, 15 days in a row, up.
Right.
So, we could have that kind of flip as they go from world's ending, Tesla's ending, we're kind of barely surviving too, and now we're executing stuff again, right? And then, so I think, let's just say the 23rd and the few days after, we get to 300. And then 8.8, we get some licensing deals with China, and then we get back to the all-time high. So I'm willing to, say that's a scenario where that happens.
All right. Now, I've been saying for a very long time that if we have robo-taxis deployed, I don't care what, it can be robo-taxis in China, it can be robo-taxis in the United States, it can be both. It can be Tesla fleet, it can be your and my cars being available for robo-taxis. I don't care, but we have some kind of deployment, actual starting to take place, that we go to 700 rapidly.
Right.
I would say even maybe by the end of the year, but certainly by the end of the first quarter.
Yeah. So if the 8.8 event, the optimal scenario for me would be that, Baidu, 𝐓𝐡𝐫𝐤, BYD, say, and WeRide and some of the other robotaxi companies. So the robotaxi companies and some Chinese automakers say, yes, we're going to license FSD, look at it, license FSD. We're going to buy Tesla cars and deploy them in several things in cities. They'll probably give some, thing like 100,000 cars by end of 2025 or 2026. Right.
That's your optimal game plan, is that we get 2, 3, 4 different deals, actual licensing deals, and maybe auto purchases out of China for robotaxis announced at the 8.8 or announced after the 8.8, or
it could be a month after. The reason it could be a month after might be because they want to see a fully polished 12.4 or 12.5 version. And because that was a little delayed, then that could delay the deal. Although, they are testing it. Like the CEO of 𝐓𝐡𝐫𝐤 came over to try it, right? Yeah. So the Chinese and they're impressed, right? But they would be really impressed if it actually was fully functioning and polished, right? I'm not sure because I haven't driven, what the 12.4, 12.5 are like now. But clearly, 12.4, when they were driving it, they're saying, okay, yes, no interventions, but it seems like the testers were more willing to accept a rough ride. Mm-hmm. When they got into some more normal people, they're saying, hey, this is freaking me out or doing whatever, right? And so they had to hold back to polish it. But I'm presuming to get that solved. So, like I said, when they get my caveat would be 2,000 miles per intervention in some vehicle that they can drive. So if it's a fully released 12.4, that'd be ideal, or 12.5, or it's a test version that they see, holy crap. Well, basically the testers, 𝐓𝐡𝐫𝐤, BYD, and their team of 10 testers or whatever, they actually try it and they say, this is
ready to go.
Ready to go, job amazing. I see it, take my money.
Okay. Based on that, I have to change my approach then, Brian. If we get one licensing deal out of a Chinese company, in particular, if it's 𝐓𝐡𝐫𝐤 or it's BYD, if one of those two give a deal, and if 𝐓𝐡𝐫𝐤 wants to buy some cars, or if Baidu wants to buy some cars, I would say each of those is worth 100 points.
Yeah, right. Right. And also the whole domino effect.
Yes, of course.
The capitulation by everyone. Yes.
Yes.
Because part of it was that the deal with Volkswagen and Rivian. We have Volkswagen going to pay $5 million for freaking Rivian software. It's like, buying garbage software. It's like
unbelievable. It just shocks you. It just makes you go, what? Yeah. It's like another General Motors deal. Or actually, Volkswagen's been making just as bad of deals. All right. So that's your number one expectation, hope, desire, dream of what could happen on 8.8. What else would you like to see happen on 8.8? Are you looking at a 2-door, a 4-door? Do you care? I mean, two passenger, 4 passenger, or does it matter to you?
Doesn't matter to me. I think I look at less. They both would work. 2 passenger, 4 passenger, both would work in terms of 90% of rides, on and on. But I would think, just that they made like a 2.5 vehicle,
Mhm.
right? The full vehicle would go all the way. Then that's a two-person vehicle, it's robotaxi, like that. I think just initially, having a four-person vehicle, just it's less of we're going Cybertruck, shock and awe, it's the right thing to do, on and on, right? If it was more like, we're going to do something that works, we can produce it quickly, but then if they actually can make 50% more by going, or double, going with a two passengers smaller vehicle, then fine. You believe that you can make that happen, then do it. But it was less of like an intermediate step is
Yeah.
I would be more comfortable. Show them both.
Yeah,
I can't make them both anyway.
So, another possibility that some people have put forward, I've seen at least one or two, is the London cabbie type of situation where you would have two gorgeous seats, two really nice, comfortable captain's chairs or whatever, which would be there for every single ride, and then you'd have some kind of a fold-down chair that would seat two if you really needed to get four people for 20 miles or 10 miles or whatever. What about something like that?
I'm looking at, you're making the Model 3 Model Y of robotaxi, right? It's a mainstream vehicle.
Yeah.
Right? And going that way seems like you have an adoption issue anyway. So, it seems like too much change is I prefer wait a year, 2 years, after
Before doing that one. I see. All right. Okay. Okay. So what about the one of the things people have talked about is whether or not we'll have a simultaneous announcement on the Model 2.5 and or Juniper. I'm saying that the Model 2.5 maybe, but the Juniper not until it's ready to go.
Right. I would say the Tesla Elon pattern is not to, each vehicle delivers its own product launch.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That's pretty much his thing.
Now the product launches lately have been car wow.
Right. Right.
So he might see the Juniper at least would be just a car wow deal, just put it.
But the argument against that and loading up multiple releases in the one thing is to guarantee shock and awe on 8.8. So it's not any way a dud.
Right.
Right. And doing that whole Steve Jobs and one more thing.
Yeah, right.
But Elon has not done that before. So the argument against it is Elon has not done that before. He seems to have the philosophy of, if I'm launching a vehicle, this is, I'm delivering a vehicle, it's its own event. Right. So he does individual events.
So that new company, I forget their name now, put out their, it was Maserati or one of Ferrari or somebody had their division where they're doing this electric Robocab, and they stole all of Tesla's ideas and thoughts. Did you get a chance to watch that little video?
I took a look at it. They're saying they do it 2026, right?
Yeah, 2026. Yeah.
So they have a hypercar company, and then they have a vehicle that says the robotaxi. That's right.
Yeah, and so I was impressed with the presentation of all of the fun things. I thought the thing they left out was I think there should be some kind of a coffee, tea, water, and Diet Pepsi for me, of course. Anyway, but some kind of a dispensing device where you're going to get a drink. They didn't include that in their thoughts.
So the issue there, and this would be an issue for Tesla too, would be that when you show the vehicle and then you say, and it won't be there for 2 years. Yeah. That's the whole thing like Cybertruck. I show it, it's not there for years, right? Then that's a problem. You need to have it closer to, and we're going to start making it. Right. Even semi where it's like, okay, we're making a few hundred. a few thousand. It's real, and I'm testing for whatever reason, right?
Right.
So, and for robotaxi, because you're going to be doing these tests, just like Waymo does. Okay, I'm doing tests, human drivers doing tests for a full year.
Yeah.
Then why can't you get a few hundred, 1,000 out, right? To say, no, we still have to, work on, I guess, I understand all the engineering, all the other stuff, for a while to get it right and to scale up. But they said that they were doing this hybrid approach, so they wouldn't have to change the factories where it was faster. That they was, because before they were saying it was, we're doing the unbox process. It could take end of 2025, 2026 before we get production.
Right.
So they said, no, let's do this faster.
Right.
So my main thing is, you said that you were going to go with what you got, the technology, the whatever, go with what you got, and get them out the door.
Right.
Right. And get to volume. Right. That we're going to shorten up the distance between waves.
Right.
So I know that what they do will be an improvement. I just want to see them get the cheaper car out the door. I would prefer it to be Q4 this year.
Yeah.
At least getting in volume production. Again, at China speed. Because they promised us China speed, Shanghai speed for Texas and for Berlin, and they did not meet that. That is one that I really don't like. They said, hey, we're going to get it to that speed, and then that never happened. The ramp didn't happen.
Right.
So I want, especially if this is supposed to be the cheaper, faster, whatever, every whizzy thing. My concern, 2 to 4 door, I want the ramp.
Right.
I want to see 1 million cars. Numbers. I want to see 1 million cars next year. That's what I care about.
So will we see Elon or somebody else get out their app, show the app, hook the app, and then the car will come, pick them up, and then drive away? Is that kind of, that'll be part of
it for sure. That's
very disappointing. Very disappointing if that doesn't happen.
Right.
Will there be a supervised rollout, or will we roll out right away? When the rollout takes place, will it immediately be unsupervised?
They can unsupervised into the Vegas tunnel. You can do 40 vehicles there and do it unsupervised. The place you can do it unsupervised right away. But I would expect on a regulatory basis, you'd have to do it supervised.
So Nicholas Gibbs thinks you could put the car as it is right now out as a robotaxi. Now, I've been driving mine around much more than usual lately, and I had a couple of very odd, like trying to run into traffic cones would be one of them. And I'm pretty sure it would have hit the traffic cones if I hadn't intervened. So it seems like there's still some interventions that would be real problematic in terms of releasing it now, but maybe he's thinking in terms of this next level where some of those things, those final issues would be dealt with. And his theory is that the existing Waymo, which is pretty successful in terms of the way that it's operating, that given city street driving, maybe only, because I've noticed most of my problems are on the highway, which is not on the right stack yet. And maybe it's only cities, or maybe there's some limitations on it or whatever, that it could be released pretty soon.
What would be released?
That Tesla could release an unsupervised Robocab that would be as good as a Waymo, like almost now.
Given the 2 steps forward, 1 step back thing, they would have to do more validation testing to say that, and they'd have to do more freezing of control the changes, right? Because they're doing so many changes,
right?
Redoing it.
Freeze in place.
That if they say, okay, now 12.5 is good,
and
then we shove it over into the unsupervised robotaxi stack,
right?
Because I can make changes to this one, and because person's still there,
right?
I can,
play with that.
Play with that. Right. Because when they go to unsupervised, then they'll have to be more controlled about what am I doing over there.
Right.
Because I can't just like, oh, I didn't test. I was looking at interventions. I didn't test this other part, right? And then what's that screaming I hear? Oh, the passengers are in my unsupervised vehicles that I updated over there, and then they're just like ah. So
Yeah, great time.
it'd be a great time. Yeah, it'd be the roller coaster. But basically they have to, you know, change the release methodology thinking to say this is, hey, we can't be messing around in this anymore because no one's in there. Although, you know, they can still remote drive it or something like that. But basically, you know, just like you know, they can't be messing stuff up, you know, because crews, you know, blocking traffic, doing stuff, you know, you'd have to, you know, like, yeah. So the vehicle, this version could be ready, but they would have to tie it up and say, okay, we're now setting up our processes for change,
Right.
so that it would always stay good. Not only is this one good, but the next one's good, and we have a process for rolling it out. So there's some validation process that has to occur, which I don't. They have that part they haven't shown me, and they have to show regulators too, right? But you know, just me and the outside observer looking like you don't seem to have that quite yet. I can see you make improvements.
Yeah.
I don't see you locking it down yet. So I think I still think get 12.5,
Right.
lock it down for a month, do some supervised testing, and then do unsupervised. Even if the supervised testing was all clean,
right.
Show it to yourselves, show it to the regulators, show it.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, big announcement today. People are probably not even noticing it. Limiting Factor put out a post. He says that he was, well, first of all, I guess Sandy Monroe put out a thing about this new battery. I'm going to forget what it's called. Some SIKKU. I don't forget. Anyway, it was an unusual word. New battery. It was didn't take any metals. Didn't need. Was dry process all the way across. Didn't need any tabs. Lighter weight, etc. And then also Sandy Limiting Factor had his 4680 from that he just got sent over to University of California, San Diego, where they took it apart and he got a chance to test it. And he was impressed with the new 4680. So tell me more about that.
Yeah, so it's a 𝐓𝐞𝐞 PCC.
𝐓𝐞𝐞,
answers from 4680 and 𝐓𝐶. So 𝐓𝐶 PCC, no pouch, prismatic, and then 271 grams, 354 watt-hours per kilogram. So
it's lighter than a 4680 and gives a little bit more.
Yeah, more energy density, like
a little more
over 10. I think over 10%. So it was 200. Energy density of the 4680 was 272 watt-hours per kilogram, which the Gen 1 was 244. And then so that's 11.5% more. And then so the 𝐓𝐶, and then another company that looks like they have a different cell. Yeah, it's no pouch or prismatic, bipolar, no tabs. So it's another company that has even better battery for energy density, but you know, like presumably lower volume or something. I hadn't investigated.
Oh no, I think as far as I know, the 𝐓𝐶, the one that Sandy Monroe was talking about is only in the lab. We're not even talking about anything that's being in production yet.
Right. So the cyber cell is at 271, so 11.5% better. So fully competitive with nickel batteries and that kind of stuff. So the energy density is there. Production increasing, so it's looking like the 4680 is doing well.
Yeah, and in fact, I think what Limiting Factor was saying was that now equals the battery day expectations. Maybe a year late, but it's equaling the battery day expectations and plenty of room to get it better,
right,
to improve on it from here. So that's good news. Moreover, I think that's the thing that this other battery has to worry about. It's only a little bit better and a little bit lighter. Maybe be a little less expensive, but at the Tesla's only at this level of, they're just starting out basically on this battery. So the opportunity to grow the potential of that battery is huge.
Plus, and we know it's all about volume.
It's all about volume.
So even the 4680s are not in enough volume.
Right.
We want them to be 200 gigawatts hours per year, 500 gigawatt hours per year. We want them to be, knocking it out and be lower cost. The energy density thing is good enough. But obviously, if they do get really high density, then you would get the range without needing the extra Cybertruck battery extender.
Right. So let's go back to the price of Tesla again, one last time before we look at the general economy. One of the things that people are saying might be a big driver of this price increase right now is just Elon is back.
Mm-hmm.
So what percentage would you say is about Elon's back?
I would say it's about 10 to 15%.
15% of the price increase is just Elon is back. He's back in the saddle. He's making things happen.
Right, because when we saw that the initial head fake where maybe the vote was going to go good, there was something where they said this thing was happening related to the vote or something like that the stock was moving up, and then actually the actual vote seemed to be more muted because we had more details around it. But I think having digested that all in podcast saying it is solved. If not this time in appeal in Texas,
one way or the other.
We view it solved. Elon views it as solved. Elon's just happier and then back into it. So Elon having a positive attitude and being happy and energized, he's the most productive and powerful guy in the world. So that difference, even not as much of the people outside in it, but then they're just seeing the results of it. But then they do, I think, have that worry. Again, these as Gary Black was saying, these overhangs.
Yes.
So those go away. Not a concern.
Yeah, and I think the X overhang has gone away too, because X seems to be doing extremely well.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't even started doing all the fun stuff they're going to do with
Payments.
Payments and stuff. Yeah, so I mean, they got a long way to go, and they seem to be doing just fine. And you don't even see anybody saying anything negative about the financial aspects anymore, because guess what? It's doing great. So interesting. So Barron's is out with the responding to the Federal Reserve minutes that were published late yesterday afternoon. And they say that this is what they found. They found officials' collective forecast for interest rates in the summary of economic projections employed 1 quarter-point cut by the end of 2024. So they kind of narrowed it down, and they say, look, as of this moment, we're only going to see 1. My guess would be November if there is only 1. It will not likely be July or September. They'll wait for more and more information if that's where they're inclined to go. So I'm not sure I'm not even sure why they would bother. Just wait till 2025 and then start their cuts. I don't know. What are you thinking?
I think a quarter-point cut is useful just to see what would happen.
Okay.
Right. Because that they were like holding off. I mean, that it's like, before they would say, inflation's transitory and stuff like that, they didn't move. These quarter-point cuts, like they need to make like, 16 to take the interest rate down 4%, down 2%, right? If you wanted to if inflation was 2%, if you wanted your rate to be 1.5, like basically a neutral rate, right? Then you'd be getting down there, right? So you have to have like 16 cuts to get down there if you're doing like quarter point at a time, right? So they don't, at a calibration test, just like says overshoot and then overcorrect. They haven't done any of that testing, right? So and I believe that the that they're putting more strain on the economy, and that they need to be cutting, because I think, them ignoring the fact that banks blow up, it's like, people go bankrupt, it's kind of like, but the overall thing is okay. We're slowing it down. It's like, I think they're overdoing it. And that a quarter point thing, just to, even if they say drop a quarter and then see what happens, they haven't done that.
Yeah.
Right. So,
well, now they've actually said, though, let me kick back on that with just a little bit. They've actually said, we do not want to do a quarter point only. That when we do a quarter point, it will be part of we will be giving a signal.
Then we're going to start eating all.
Then we're going to start easing. Yeah. And so it would be, no, it doesn't mean that they have to do a quarter point every quarter or even every month. They could do it, every other time or every third time. But they do want it to reflect the fact that they're going to start easing.
Right. Right. So I have not been impressed with Jerome Powell. So, their plan is not good. And also this stuff like the interest that we pay on the debt is more than the national defense budget.
Right.
And the national defense budget is not small.
Right.
Not like $1 trillion, we're up near $1 trillion, like $900 billion.
Yeah.
So having the interest rate that high and having that much and stacking up debt at the rate that we are,
right,
it's just nuts. So I would say we need to start cutting earlier. And I understand their concern about letting inflation get away, but it's the lagging indicators. Just the freaking rent. I think everything else is under control enough. And anyway, so
we'll see. So they said the participants noted that recent indicators suggested that economic activity had continued to expand at a solid pace. The only thing that's expanding at a solid pace is services. Everything else is down. And not only that, within services, you're starting to see a little bit of a reduction in services as well. Participants expected that the real GDP growth this year would be at or below the strong pace recorded in 23. They remarked that recent data on economic, no kidding, the third quarter was 5.3 or something like that, and the fourth quarter was 3.2, I think. So yeah, I think it'll be a lot slower than last year. Anyway, they remarked that recent data on economic activity were largely consistent with the anticipated slowing. Participants observed that a lower rate of output growth this year could aid the disinflation process while also being consistent with a strong labor market. Anything that you're seeing that would indicate we have a strong labor market?
No.
Yeah, no. Everything would tell me. They have this, I forget the name of it because I can't remember everything anymore. It's that they have this thing where if you have 5 months in a row where it goes up a point, from 3.4 to 3.5 to 3.6, et cetera. Well, this is an absolute guarantee of a recession. It's like every time that it's happened. Well, yeah. It's happened. We've had, I guess it was at 3.4. It's gone, up a point for 6 out of the 7 months or something. And so that it has passed that test. We've got of course, the inversion in the bond market. We've got 4 sectors of the economy in recession and have been in recession: transportation, housing, retail, and what's the manufacturing? That's 4. What's the 5th one? Anyway, all of those are in recession and have been with no real evidence they're coming out.
Right.
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 So it's kind of hard for me to see. So I agree with you. I think I'd be okay with them even starting to give an impression that they were planning to planned some kind of reduction over time now rather than when things are not so great. Oh, I know. You were telling me, I'm not sure about this. Maybe you can help me out. That tech is in recession?
Yeah, all the layoffs in tech.
Oh, the layoffs. Okay.
But the only thing that's going is the AI stuff, right? Everything else is got cutbacks and that kind of thing, right? trim 10% in Tesla, they or 15%, whatever there. I'm not sure of any company doing major hiring. And then the hiring for AI is very limited, like
Right.
a few thousand PhDs and stuff like that. And then they lay off other areas in order to build up the AI side.
Right. All right. Well, the next meeting is on July 30th, 31. Right now the interest rates are down the last couple of days after going up though. So they haven't recovered all of that increase from the previous week. Futures are pricing in 73% odds of a cut at September's meeting, but a 10% chance of a cut at July's meeting. And I am still of the opinion that we will get 0 cuts this year and that maybe we'll get a cut in November. That's a very soft maybe. I really think it's going to be no cuts this year. So
let's say there's a change in administration.
Yeah.
The Trump guy gets in.
Right.
When can he replace Jerome Powell? Because Jerome Powell isn't going to be renewed by anyone, right?
Yeah, I think Federal Reserve is supposed to be somehow jockeyed different than the electoral cycle.
Yeah.
So that there is a transfer of that independent position that isn't where the president could just immediately switch.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's a year into the administration or 2 years into the administration, but I think we could look that up and find out what it is. But
yeah.
I think his term is well after the beginning of the next president's term.
Right. Because on the evidence, he should be fired.
Well, we'll find out. His I guess his legacy will be determined by whether or not we have that soft or even slightly down. Nobody would complain if we had a minor recession for a couple of quarters. I certainly wouldn't.
Having freaking lived through it, the fact that he screwed it up getting into it.
I see. Okay, yeah.
Right. Even if we start coming back out of it, and then that is okay. I don't know. It didn't seem like it took brain surgery, to raise it up and then just pull the your foot off the neck at the right time before it dies.
Well, here's where I'll 100% agree with you. They had it right in the first place. It was transitory. It was a boom bust. There are lots of boom busts. You can go back and look at the boom bust cycles historically. You can see what happens in a boom bust situation. Now, you can't be quite sure how this boom bust is going to work out, but you can see this huge spike in inflation. That's even if you say, okay, it's caused by a boom bust, which they did. They said it's transitory. Okay, then it's okay to raise it a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think if they'd raised it a little bit in the early going, they might have never had to go over 3 or 3.5.
Right. I agree.
Right. Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So
okay, labor numbers tomorrow. If we are 4.1% or lower, in other words, another 0.1 tick up, I think we don't get that rate cut until November, or if ever. And again, there could be more upticks later that would trigger it. But if we get a surprise and it's 4.2, we might get a surprise cut in July. What do you think?
It should and what will. So
Okay.
Should have a cut in July, should have a cut in September. I'm of the feeling that it should be like, 3 or 4, how many rate cuts, get down to percent is my feeling. But will, yeah, what you're saying, that basically they feel like if I haven't destroyed the economy yet, I'm not going to start cutting. Oh, now I destroyed the economy and now I'll start cutting because I was late before, I'm going to be late again. So my opinion is I agree with you because I think these guys are idiots.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, let's take a look at the little bit of information that we have going into tomorrow. All we have, of course, is the pre-market. Let's see what the pre-market is telling us. So, and we won't even have all of it, I don't think. I think we'll have, on the bonds, we've got the 10-year up 0.8, back up to 435. I think we're too early, though, for the rest of it. So all we have is the 10-year. We've got the oil, 17. Oops, wait a minute. Things are changing. Let me go back and look again. Yeah, oil 17 cents. So sitting at 84 and 87.55 for the two. it's eking up. And to your point of last night, Israel and Hezbollah are definitely not happy with one another right now. 200 rockets into Israel, I guess, overnight. We'll see what happens there. But the split is still only $3.40. So right now, at least the market's saying they're not that worried about it. Natural gas down $1. 1.86%. So that's falling again in summer.
Mm-hmm.
And with a heat wave, at least here in Riverside.
Yeah, I'm a heat wave too. Yeah.
We're having 100 degrees for the next 8 days.
Mm-hmm.
100 plus. All right. We've got gold down 450. So it held on to that increase from Wednesday, still at 2,365.
Mm-hmm.
Silver up 0.62%, over $30 still. You know what? I have let my audience down though for the third day in a row. I have not looked up what's going on with commodities. Copper up another 0.73%, at 4.56, heading back towards 5. I guess I better really do it this time. I need to really remember to check what's going on with commodities.
Okay.
The Bitcoin. Rough day, rough week, rough month. 58,474, down 1,300 again today.
But
Wow.
but I think those things are like it had a big run up,
Yeah.
got up to
74.
74, right? So a technical correction
Over
right?
20% now.
Whatever, but it's like big moves up, big moves down, up,
Yeah.
right? So it doesn't indicate that it won't have a big move up and get there by the end of the year. That there's other indications it could go up, but it's still kind of off its own thing. But it's like gold, it's like if gold's down to $1,000 up to $2,000, it's like
All right, on the equity. Oh, I didn't look at the dollar. Yen down more. 38-year low on the yen. I guess you just got back from. Did you go to Japan on that trip?
Yes, I went to Tokyo. Yes, fantastic right, for me when I was buying the food over there. So you're paying the equivalent of like $4 for a fantastic meal. It's really good.
Yeah, even in Canada on my trip, I was like, "What?"
Yeah. Well, it goes to the Jerome Powell. That I can get to thank Jerome Powell for the fact that he's keeping rates so high, and everyone else is saying, "I can't give myself needless pain. I'm going to drop my rates anyway."
Right.
Which they've done around the world, other places, right? And so their currency takes they hit. So it helps them when people come spending dollars in their economy.
Okay, so on the equities, we've got the Dow up 43 or 0.11%. We've got the S&P basically unchanged, down 2 at 0.04%, and the NASDAQ down 28 or 0.14. So not a lot of activity here in the pre-market. And again, of course, it is a slow week with everybody out of town, but we'll see what happens tomorrow. Any last thoughts before we go into tomorrow? Well, so the Tesla went up in the Canadian market today, another 4.5%.
Nice.
So I don't know if that'll carry through to tomorrow. If you were going to place your bet, this is just for fun. I think we have to touch either 460, 465. I'm 260, 265. I think we have to touch that before this run goes away.
Right, I agree. I think it goes 260, 265, and then it could stall out there, but it doesn't have to. It can punch through 280 and stuff because it was excessively beaten down. Like back before the big drop, like a more recent big drop, but basically at the beginning of the year, I think we were at 240, 250, even 260, right?
Right.
And that
we're right. We're almost exactly where we are, where we're at the end of 23.
Right. And we had a bad Q1. Right. Okay. 398,000 cars, had to do some shutdowns, do some that, other stuff like that. Production's way down, cars in transit, a bad quarter. Right. So if now we're back to 19% margins, back to what we were at the beginning of 2023, right? And we kind of like say the last 12 months didn't happen.
Right.
and we're just looking at, and we had held these numbers,
Mhm.
then 260, 300, because we,
Not a surprise, yeah.
because the strength of the company, 19% margin, 20% margins, right? And then reasonable growth expectations in the next 12 months.
Right.
Energy's delivering just on that. Not saying, okay, crazy future growth, just the fact that we're as strong as we were at the beginning of 2023.
Plus energy.
Plus energy.
Right.
Strong we were 2023, plus energy, with the going forward now back in place,
Right.
where we're going to have new vehicles. All the positive stuff that we're kind of hoping for that kind of didn't happen is now, right in front of us, right? So getting to 300 just on that, Elon fully engaged, and the Delaware thing mostly heading off the table, margins back, growth back. What more, like that Iron Man thing where Tony Stark is in the congressional hearing, I gave you world peace. What more do you want now?
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, right.
For now,
Yes.
So we're back to 300. So I think we can get back to 300 just on the fact that things are back to the way they were. That we have no longer have the crap, and we're good.
It sounds like a perfect way to end Good News Thursday. Thank you, Brian Wong, for coming on as co-host. And for all of you out there, it has been great talking to you